What is up, everybody? This is Ryan here for the Scale Up Show. I'm going to have Jordi Torras on today. Really interesting perspective. They're approaching close to 18, 19 million ARR this year. Really cool thing about them is they started off in professional services for 5 years before making the jump to SaaS, but they've doubled in growth every single year, doubled in size, I should say. And the really cool thing is they're using AI and NLP, I should say, natural language processing, and they have some of the biggest companies in the world as customers. So you're not going to want to miss this really cool, different perspective on product market fit as well. It's a great episode. Check it out. Welcome everybody to the Scale Up Show. This is your host, Ryan Staley, and I have a very special guest with me today. I have Jordi Torras. Jordi is the CEO and founder of Inbenta, that helps clients improve online relationships with their customers during revolutionary technologies like AI and natural learning processing. They're a multi-award-winning firm that has doubled in size year over year since 2005. That's absolutely amazing. And they have big clients such as Burger King, Citibank, and Ingersoll. Jordi, happy to have you on the show, man. Welcome.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me here, Ryan. I love your show.
Thanks, man. It's been a lot of fun getting to know you, and even though I haven't interviewed you yet formally, right? But it's been awesome, and so I'm really looking forward to this. So, can we give everyone a quick background in terms of where you're at in the revenue journey, and can you give us like kind of an ARR revenue range of where you're at?
Yeah, sure. So this year is kind of doing pretty well, at least the way we started, right? We're putting at around $18 million by the end of this year. This is our target is. Across multiple markets. Half of it is still Europe, and then we have the US, of course, and business in
Awesome.
Brazil as well.
Well, that's a big threshold. Not very many, only 1% get over 10 million. So you're right on your way to do the high eight, high, eight figures. Eight figure? No, the high eight figures is close to 9. But you know what I mean. You get what I'm saying.
Yes. Let's go for the next figure.
The next jump, right? So what's your primary go-to-market strategy?
Well, we are essentially B2B, right? Of course. So what we go is after accounts that our ideal customer, in the sense that they have they are B2C. They sell or produce digital products, and almost as a consequence of that, they have big call centers, right? So this is the ideal customer. So telecommunications, airlines, financial institutions, even software companies are our product. And when I say that digital, right, it's like, well, wait a minute, an airline is anything but digital. You have to physically bring somebody from one point to another. And it is true, but the experience of airline is very much digital. You buy, you check in. There's a lot of digital process on that. So we have some customers in this area as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, everything's digital now. So I could see where that would be an easy fit. So could you walk us through your solution just a little bit deeper in terms of helping people understand more about it?
Yeah. So there are a lot of companies that offer support online, right? And the way to do it is essentially letting customers to ask questions when they have one, trying to answer that question right away without intervention of a human call center. And if you are able to pull that off, great. You basically have a happier customer and a faster resolution rate. The problem is very often customers cannot find these answers. So we help on that. We have this AI and we call natural language processing capabilities that says, hey, we understand your question, and among the hundreds, sometimes thousands of potential answers, that's the answer that basically fits your case. And that's what we do. So companies like Groupon, DocuSign, Pinterest in the US use this technology to power their help centers, and therefore letting their users to find answers to questions quickly and effectively.
Excellent. Yeah, I can see there being a big need for that. What's your primary go-to-market strategy?
Well, we are basically direct at this point. So we have several channels. You can think that the usual suspects, right? Making sure we create content. We are present online. We have now that the pandemic is, let's call it over, right? So there's a lot of physical events and trade shows still happening. But basically, yeah, it's basically direct with an SDR team and account executives, and they enter into kind of saying, okay, what is the ideal persona, and going after potential opportunities.
Okay, so it sounds like a sales go-to-market motion predominantly, right?
Yeah,
Leveraging
yeah,
other
I would
traffic or
call it a
demand, maybe.
classic B2B sales
Okay,
process.
awesome. That's my jam, man. I'm familiar with that. So, and then are you bootstrapped or are you backed?
We raised a couple of rounds, Series A and what we call Series B. So we have some amazing investors, private equity, venture capital, some corporate investors. If you go to Inbenta, we have a partner a board section, so you will see our investors there. So they're
It's
amazing.
just in the board. Totally makes
Yeah.
sense. So walk us through. So, I mean, I love the fact that you doubled in size year over year since 2005. I think that's absolutely amazing. How did you do that? Like, well, before we get into how you did it, what was the journey, right? And it was 2005 the year you started, correct?
Yeah, let me tell you the story, right? Because it's been a long time, right? 2005. That's the creation of the company Inbenta was in Barcelona, and this is where I am from. And I can tell you what we did back then was what I did was starting a consulting firm. That's how I started, right? So Inbenta was a consulting firm helping um, our customers with implementation of search technologies. We got specialized into that. So it wasn't until 5 years after working with an amazing team of computational linguists and like specialists in search engines that would say, hey, I think that we have now the possibility to create a new technology, essentially an AI that instead of using keywords for searching, we use meaning, right? So we have this layered approach where we understand the language, we create a symbolic reference of that language in order to find answers that basically mean or have a similar meaning to what you are asking, and that's why we want to offer our customers a technology that doesn't require training, right? So AI, in machine learning, there's a lot of that. It's all about training, um, training that our customers sometimes or very often don't have. So that's how we, basically in 2011, we pivoted right from being consulting into being a SaaS business. Also, we started deploying internationally. So that's how our growth, right? It's been we're starting as services. We pivoted basically um, in 2011, and then we started our international journey, and that's how we were able to go there to the go to market and get into new markets.
Okay, so that's interesting. And the more founders I talk to about this, there's a lot that have this path where they start off in the services market and then they pivot to SaaS, right? So is that like is that the way you drew it up from the beginning? Like you're just like, hey, I'm gonna take this approach, I'm gonna learn the market, I'm gonna help people, and then put that into SaaS solution, or what was that journey like?
Good question. When I started the company, my focus was on professional services, and I wanted to be successful there. Um, but because prior to that, together with my brother, we had another company. So we started a company that we sold in 2004, so the year prior. So we knew the business of building a consultant business and then selling it, right? But I always had this dream of building a technology company. So it's and particularly and now I'm here in the Bay Area, right? So in Silicon Valley, there's a machinery to build that. But in Spain, especially back then, that didn't exist. Usually, technology companies come from always from other countries, never there. So that pivot was the realization that when we were doing kind of the same kind of work over and over again, and you start learning what works and what doesn't work, you start building tools to make your work more efficient and faster, and then you realize, wait a minute, that can be a product, right? What if we have all these tools packaged, all these tools kind of under same a software package, and then when we go to sell our technology, instead of saying, "Hey, we can fix your problem for you," we say we have a solution that solves that problem. That's essentially then you do this mental switch, and then instead of charging for the work, you charge a subscription for using the technology. That's kind of the mental click that allows I guess an entrepreneur to move from professional services to SaaS is. But I guess at first you have to understand very well the problem, but you have to solve it manually several times over until you get it. It's like, oh, I see what the problem is. I see how the kind of things I will have to repeat over and over again. So then you build a software. I guess, Ryan, that there are smart entrepreneurs over there that have this brilliant idea and then create something out of the blue without talking to anybody. But it's certainly not my case. My case is about building a software after measuring and working very hard to solve the same problem manually over and over again. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you crushed it on that one because, like, sometimes and it's really interesting because a lot of people say this is what AI is doing, right? It's going through massive test cycles to see what works and what doesn't, at least more on the gaming side and other areas to kind of identify how to solve a problem. But when you're talking about a really complex problem, there's so many variables, you can't just throw it into a simulator and have it learn on its own, right? So
that's right. And the enterprise is a complicated organism, right? So it has a lot of complications, history, legacy systems, all built over and over and another. So you have to understand the circumstances. Sometimes for big companies, even if they would be using some new technology, sometimes for them it's hard because deploying that technology on top of what they already have is complicated.
Oh yeah.
So that's part of the SaaS building is how can we build a blog that is easy to sell, but especially easy to buy, because that's what the companies want. It's like, okay, what can I have? I have something that I can deploy now. That's I believe one of the secrets on the success on implementing SaaS is making sure that what you have is not only the best according to some metric, is also easy for customers to deploy, to run, and to buy, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I agree with that. And like, I've even built. It was so funny because we were in a mature market in a prior life, and the interesting thing is we started to attack the enterprise space, and some of the key components were like we didn't hit on the messaging initially, but what I found is that like the messaging that like broke through all of the noise, and it wasn't like sexy or innovative. It was that, right, there's the big promise and then the certainty of the outcome, right? So it's like, what's the certainty of the outcome? So that's on the top. And then if you look at the bottom of the messaging kind of formula, it was basically how fast am I going to get a return? Like basically how fast is it going to take effect and you're going to see results? And the other is how little hassle is it to me? right? And how little hassle is it to our
Exactly.
company to implement, right?
You nailed it. You nailed it. And I've seen tools out there, right? And talking to customers, and they say, "Hey, man, I already have a job. You don't come here and give me work." Many professionals working in companies like, "Hey, give me something that is easy to set up, because we all have a lot of work here already to do, right? So if you come here to give me work, that's not gonna fly."
Oh yeah. Well, and then on top of it too, there's the risk aversion because if they make the wrong decision on a large deal, the results are they get fired potentially, right? So
That's right. It's like their life is complicated, and of course, all the vendors come there, including us, I guess, promising we are the best, everything's going to be all right. So deciding that it's complicated from their side. It's the corporate buyer is not an easy job, and I admire them for their courage when
oh
they go
yeah.
for companies. They take decisions, and they have to make their projects work.
Yeah. I agree. So okay, so that's how did you make that? Okay, so it's obviously you saw pattern recognition and repeatability of consistent problems that were solvable, right? So that laid the foundation. How did you make the jump to creating it into a technical solution, into a SaaS product in 2011? Then did you are you technical? Is your background are you technical background?
My background is technical. Yes,
Okay.
I studied computer science in college. I'm technical, and sometimes I have folks who say that I am too technical. So, but yes.
So did you just jump right in then yourself since you had that technical background, or did you align with someone who was more in a sales marketing product
Oh, when
or
I started that, and I'm talking about a long time ago, right? When I started my entrepreneur career, is like, okay, I'm technical. By then, I had experience as a as a consultant, right? So talking to customers and understanding their problems, that was uh, that was something that I was well trained at. But sales was not my thing. But I read this book. It's a book called The Accidental Salesperson, right?
Mhm.
And that was an interesting book. And I recommend to everybody in the space, because basically says, hey, if you go to now to a middle school and you ask, hey guys, who among you wants to be a salesman? So you will find who wants to be astronaut and singer and rock star, whatnot, but nobody wants to be a salesman, right? So that means that all the sales are accidental, right? So the book says, well, and probably that's you too, right? So if you are here and you got into have to be good in sales, yeah, at least be good. And that's basically what the book is about: is how can you transform yourself into being a newbie and going into sales. So that was a nice first book that I that I started reading to self train in sales. Totally.
Okay, so that's then you made the jump that way. So that's good, man. So
Yeah.
walk us through then, like, what's the secret to doubling every year? Like, how did you do that? How did you make that a reality? Walk us through that, and if you have a framework, it'd be great. Like, what would you say is the single most important thing that led to that?
Yeah, basically, on one hand, you might tie your product um, to some metric that allows you to grow within customers, right? So, and that's important, because if you work with customers that are in a space that grow, and they have more traffic on the website, more calls, more folks in the call center, more something, that essentially will bring additional revenue for you. So that's the first thing is, how can I make a technology that is tied to the natural growth of companies? Now, not every company is going to grow that naturally, of course, but at least if you're able to kind of sit on top of this kind of situations where you the subscription is related to success and volume, that allows you I would say, capacity to grow just by continuing serving your customers, right? The second thing is, of course, have a sales team that is, I would say, not easy to find, but they have one foot in technology and understanding and have this consultative approach, and another foot into being, prospecting hunters and the capacity to create pipeline, right? So we spend a lot of time training sales and making sure that they are in this space. And then when it comes to marketing, well, you need to make sure that what you put as content and what you tell and how you tell the story is educational. So you have content that really customers and potential customers, sometimes competitors, can really avoid that, will see as a reference. And that's, I believe, the key to success, right? Is making sure that sales, marketing, and customer success work really like a clock to drive targets of revenue.
Yeah, I think. Well, how big is your sales, marketing, and success teams? Like, how how large?
Yeah, we have around 12 in account as account executives and another 12 as customer success.
Okay, good. And then do you
Yeah,
have a big
different
marketing?
different different industries, right? Where the two of them are the two account executives in the U.S., two that cover UK and Germany. Um, in France, we have one, Spain two. So we have account executives that work with different um,
Countries.
territories, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other interesting thing that to work for to kind of accelerate growth is when you hit the right partner, and that's not easy to find because, of course, you will talk to a lot of companies that might say, "Hey, you're gonna resell your technology," but finding the right ones that really succeed on a consistent basis is not easy. For example, we have our um, NTT, right? NTT Docomo in Japan is one of our partners, and they are covering our technology in the region, and they are amazing. They built an entire machinery to use their sales capillarity, and as you might imagine, Ryan NTT in Japan is a big company, right?
Oh yeah.
They have resources that we cannot afford to have, and even less in these areas, right? So this partnership, just by itself, is basically we've been able to, since we started, growing on a 3x, and just by leveraging on this kind of partnership relationships, we've been able also to find some great areas of growth. Now, we have not found a way to to do it systematically, right? So we are working on a way to see how can we create this find and train and make these partners successful. I can tell you, right? There's been a lot of stories of misery as well, right? But when it works, it's really amazing. It flies by itself, right?
Well, so it's interesting you say that because, and I'll point you to another guest. I don't know if you heard. Did you hear the episode where I interviewed Prabhat Singh? He's the CEO of Pies. Did you ever hear that podcast that I had at all, or no?
No, no, I haven't. I
So
haven't
I'll send it over
had
to
the
you after the
pleasure.
show.
Please.
His entire go to market is product or partner based, and so he walks through step by step his exact approach in terms of acquiring new partners. And it's really interesting because it mimics an enterprise sales process all the way
Huh.
down to like he tests things out with them to see if they're a good fit and everything like that. But he said it's worked out really good for him in terms of acquiring some really large, consistent partners. So could be of value to you or anybody.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's an area that I think we have room for exploration and room for improvement. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Um,
that makes sense. So basically, it's like you got related success built into the customer success, right, or volume
yeah.
expansion. So that's basically your NRR, right? So you got a good net recurring revenue engine or expansion, basically net dollar retention expansion, right? You got
Exactly.
sales that's technical, but also consultative that could also prospect, right? So you got some really strong salespeople, you got marketing, and then you got the partner aspect where you're leveraging that and having some success with very strategic
Correct.
partners. Okay, makes sense, man. That's a pretty darn good mix.
That's exactly right. Of course, also you have to have a product that is good, right? So,
Right.
and you have to take into account what we call the user journey, right? And since last year, we have the option to try for free our technology. So it's crucial that when you have that, you have to imagine that potential users will just log in, get into the platform, and whatever happens, um, that will determine if they are interested or not. So that goes beyond marketing, beyond sales, is how to make sure that your product fits into the user experience that will make you want to buy. That's extremely complicated. It enters into another total different realm. But I believe we've done a good job there at saying, okay, what is the experience from, let's say, on the website of Inbenta all the way until I'm trying the technology for the first time. That is crucial, right?
So how did you uncover that? Because like it's so interesting. I had another guest on, and he was talking about like how you can't make product market fit. You have to kind of discover it or uncover it, if you will, or get it revealed. Like, so how did you create that to the point where there's natural expansion in your product and customers love it?
Yeah, that's essentially so one important aspect is combining different fire, right? So on one hand, you need to have this, I believe, right, the try for free is important. However, when your product is complex, your try for free can become also complex, and sometimes if that user experience is not well designed, it can be counterproductive, right? If you have a product that is been evolving to serve the big enterprise, almost as a natural consequence, your product gets complicated because it's just been designed to solve complicated situations. So that's a dilemma. How can we make a product that is easy to use for the first time, and yet is able to check the boxes when you get into the RFP process, right? Because these big corporations, they're going to issue an RFP, and they will ask a long list of things. Every time you say no to something, every box that you uncheck, well, someone else is going to jump in. Um, the other thing, Ryan, is that this space, right, the one that we are now, the artificial intelligence, you might know that, but has been through a lot, right, for the last 5 years, and a lot meaning on one hand a real, true technological revolution in terms of progress and the kind of things that are possible today that were not just 5 years ago, but almost simultaneously a big hype, meaning there's a lot of folks out there that overpromise over and over again in the space of AI. So to the point that sometimes some customers, right, in the big enterprise saying, "Yeah, we tried that, didn't work." So we sometimes are working with customers that they had one experience, sometimes two experiences didn't work. So it's a peculiar space where the AI is a a kind of a world where it's not like a CRM or a database, right? They work or don't, right? AI is supposed to to emulate intelligence, and therefore it's hard to measure. So, and there are so many, maybe the press, maybe analysts have said a lot of things, a lot of overpromising. I was reading the other day this press release from Elon Musk, who said in 2 years cars will drive 100% autonomously, right? And that quote is from 2014. Well, 2022, and I can't see any car driving by itself out there, right? Maybe sometimes, but not to the scale that we were promised. So there's the artificial intelligence in general. It's been in some overpromising that we have to handle as well during the sales process. Like, okay, we will never overpromise. What we say we do, we'll tell you how we do it, and we prove that it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've run into that before too with it. Like, most of the time, no matter what type of thing or solution you're selling, someone has some baggage based on something that hasn't worked before that they're comparing it to. No matter what, right? There's always some kind of baggage there. And so, like, the thing that we used to do that really helped unlock it is, first of all, understand, like, isolate what that is. Like, so you're not fighting a ghost, but like, so what are you comparing this to? Like, what was their exact situation? Was it an AI company that was less than $1 million in revenue, right? Do they have these type of clients, right? Like, just going down that path to making it like kind of black and white that you're different. But yeah, there's definitely an art form to dealing with that. So we're just about up on time. I wanted to ask you a couple of quick questions because this was awesome. Like I said, I can keep talking about this. I love this. So as we go through this, a couple of quick questions I have for you. One, like, what's your favorite book? See a lot of books in the background, like what's your favorite book that you've read over the past couple of years?
Oh, let me see. Well, that book is one that I read recently, and it's ironic, right? So it's this one, right?
Oh,
it's not a business
The
book.
Better Angels of Our Nature: Why Violence Has
The Better
Declined.
Angel, exactly. So it essentially says, hey, we prove that exactly that what you said. Violence has declined over time, right? So there's a chart here. It shows the number of deaths in among aristocrats. Well, there are hundreds of these charts. So now that we are sadly enough seeing cases of violence, of course, there's Ukraine, the shooting the other day. It's kind of hard to believe that in reality, if you look globally, the violence among humans being has decreased. So that's a book that I believe brought certain positivism despite the terrible things that are happening. Because we concentrate on this, like, there's a war now. There was no war forever, and now it's kind of back. But in reality, if you look at the big numbers, the book has convinced me that the violence has effectively decreased dramatically.
Well, it's interesting because, like, I had a coach that I work with, and she was telling me, like, literally, it's natural with our body design, the way our brain's designed, to focus on what's wrong. Then it's like, I don't know, it's just with like blood flow and the amygdala and like the way your mind's constructed, you're naturally trying not to die. So you focus on the most negative thing and what's wrong first. So versus what's positive and what's right. So, and that's what the dude phrase on, I think. So it's good that you brought that.
Yeah, there's good news. That's essentially the book about.
So who's your favorite like CEO or founder that you look up to or you think is doing an amazing job right now?
Yeah, it's not like I'm following big guys, right? But I'm some entrepreneur from Barcelona that I moved here to the San Francisco Bay Area, right? I followed the CEO of Zoom, of Zendesk, companies like UserZoom that I know personally, right? And they say, hey, I've been talking to them. I've seen how they grew their businesses, and they're amazing. They're humble, smart. They don't drive around with fancy cars. They're just on business. And yeah, some of these folks are superstars for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, you gotta love the humble nature. And last but not least, like, where do you see the future of tech going?
Well, I believe that technology is driving human progress, right? So if you look at now, like the some of the biggest problems, right, besides wars and all that, but of course, but if you look at climate change, right, it's like, okay, that's a terrible thing. We are changing the planet so quickly, but we are doing it because of our technology, right? We created technology. We need energy. At this point, we don't know where to get this energy, and the cheapest, easiest way to do it is through fossil fuels, right? I don't think we are going to be able to significantly change that by just behaving different. We need technology for that, and engineering, and the creativity to say, okay, how can we use solar energy in a way that is way more effective than we have today. Maybe uh, fusion reaction, maybe wind energy. That's an example, right? But the second thing, and back to artificial intelligence, is if you look at the status of AI now, and the journey to go ahead, the distance is so vast, right? So if you look at the robots and the AI, it's a joke compared to where humans are, right? So there's the space for growth there is amazing. Some authors said that there is a risk for AI to get too smart and too soon. I can tell you, I can't wait. That's not. It's gonna. Still needs to happen. It will happen, but it's gonna take some time and energy. In the meanwhile, yeah, we build things that produce a return on investment, and we see progress. But I believe technology is in a space like energy production. Let's say call it clean energy production, highly advanced computing, also known as artificial intelligence. That is what I believe we're going to see more and more happening.
Yeah. No, that I mean that makes sense, and it's really interesting to have your perspective on it since you're so deep in the AI and NLP area. I'm a big believer too, man. Like I've read some articles, and I mean we got a massive carbon emissions issue that we have to deal with as a world. Because I mean, and who knows? I mean, I've seen stuff that's saying like if we don't change within 10 years, there could be like global destruction
That's
based
right.
on flooding and heat.
But the thing is, we've done that before, and I don't know if you remember the whole thing about the ozone layer,
Ozone layer, yeah.
ozone layer. Um, have you heard about that lately?
Not lately, no.
No, big. Why? Well, they found what was causing it. They forbid using these kind of chemicals, and problem solved. And now this hole is getting smaller, and the whole thing is being recovered. So yeah, that's kind of the way it works. Or now we all use gasoline without lead, right?
Right, yeah.
But before we add lead into gas, and that was really bad, bad. Why did we add lead? Well, it was easy combustion, and it was easier. It's just lead is such a poisoning component that actually some people say that violence in the 80s increased because of lead poisoning. But anyways, we solved that problem. So hey, we can solve the climate change problem, and we will. I'm pretty sure about that. It's just that it's just cheaper and kind of lazier use what you've been using, right? But I'm absolutely sure that as a species, will find a way to produce more and better energy.
Excellent. Well, we're up on time. Where can people find you? Where can they learn more about you and Inbenta?
Yeah, so look at that, Inbenta. So inbenta.com is the website. You will find me there. You will find Jordi Torras in LinkedIn. You can connect directly with me. I accept everybody in my network that has a name and some sort of picture. And yeah, absolutely, I'll be glad to answer any question. jtorras@inbenta.com. That's my email as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jordi. It was a pleasure having you on the show. I love your perspective. You did an awesome
Just
job.
let me one thing. Now that you say, hey, how can you contact me? Can I do an experiment?
Go for it, man.
So that's my business card, right? Okay, right.
There you go.
So this, and I'm going to show that if you point right now your cameras into this QR code.
Go move it over to your left a little bit.
Yeah, maybe here.
There you go.
All right, so to point your camera right now to this QR code, and my contact details will be right on your phone. So here we go.
Well, if you're listening on the podcast, you're not going to be able to point your phone at it. But if you see the YouTube video of this, you will. So
that's right.
Anyways, all right, good stuff, Jordi. Thanks for being on, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
We'll see you in the next episode.